this is actually a great time to check our calendar because we have a whole bunch of really fun fall programs that are coming up, and we just opened registration for a lot of them. So whether you're looking for kids classes, something to do with the family, we have some free open house events coming up, as well as a lot of fun adult programs. So even if you're not a huge nature nerd, but you want to get outside, we've got some fun ways for you to do that too.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Spotlight Houston, where we bring you the best of the people, places, and events in Houston. This week, we sit down with Christine Mansfield of the Houston Arboretum and Nature Center to find out more about what's going on. And now your host, Blanca Quesada.
Hi, with me today is someone that I really like and admire, but I envy her lots too, because she happens to work in an area that is surrounded by nature, beautiful trees and plants, birds of all kinds, and also all kinds of critters. And just recently, she got to play with goats. I mean, can you imagine being at work and being able to play with goats? I mean, I'm sure the people at the zoo do it all the time, but not where she works at. So, don't you think that she's super lucky? Not too many people get to say that they work for Mother Nature. So, she's amazing. Welcome. My guest today is Christine Mansfield. She's Senior Manager of Marketing and Development with the Houston Arboretum and Nature Center. Welcome, Christine. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for that glowing introduction. I think that's probably the best one I've ever had.
Well, it's true. It's great to have you on the show. And seriously, not too many people have the opportunity to be surrounded by nature, which I think is wonderful, as I keep saying. The Houston Arboretum and Nature Center is a beautiful park space that's been in Houston for many years. And yet there's a lot of people that don't know it exists, especially new residents to Houston. So would you tell us a little bit of its history?
Yeah, absolutely. So, for anyone who doesn't know, the Houston Arboretum and Nature Center is a 155-acre nonprofit nature sanctuary. And we've been around since 1967. And we're located just on the western edge of Memorial Park. But we're a separate nonprofit that really specializes in conservation and environmental education. And we were actually founded for environmental education back when we were first started. And we continue to do education for kids, families, and adults to this day.
Yeah, and you're just off of 610, right?
We are. We're right over by the Galleria and not too far from downtown. So we're really pretty accessible, and it's free to visit us. We do have paid parking, but it's free to visit our grounds. We have 5 miles of trails and a nature center that also has a free discovery room with some exhibits. So we've got a lot of really fun things for visitors of all ages.
Yeah, so just exit Woodway and you're there. And kind of go slow or you'll miss it altogether.
Yes, we did open a second entrance a few years ago as part of our master plan. And so there's an entrance on Woodway and one on 610, which has definitely given us a little bit more visibility. We were referred to as a hidden gem for at least the first 40 to 50 years of our existence. So it's been nice to have more people find us and know about us.
Yeah. Yeah, you still kind of are a hidden gem. You really are. Especially right now when it's 1,000 degrees out there. A great space to hang out at.
It is. We do have some shaded trails, which is very nice. We redid parts of our ecosystem to be a little more open and have more grasslands, but we still have plenty of forested places, which are a little bit cooler, especially on these hot summer days.
Well, tell us what kind of plants or trees can we see out at the Arboretum?
That's a great question. So one of the best things about the Arboretum is we focus a lot on native plants and wildlife. So we do a lot there to make sure that the ecosystems are as healthy as they can be. And they're a good way to see a little bit of what Houston historically might have looked like in some places. So I know a lot of people will hear the word Arboretum and immediately think of a botanical garden. And that's something that we have a lot of folks ask us about is where are the curated plants, where are the plants from international places? And that's really not what we're about. We're first and foremost a nature center, and then an arboretum in the sense that we are a collection of trees. We have a forested area, but our main focus is native plants, especially because it is hot outside. We do have strong weather events that come through. So we're really focusing on things that do well naturally in these spaces and have had a lot of success with that. And it's also been really wonderful to see the wildlife that responds to it. So you can see all sorts of things like native grasses and shrubs. We have a lot of wildflowers, which people usually think of in the spring, but we also have fall wildflowers and even some in the summer. So it's really fun to see some of the native flora and fauna, especially if you're new to Houston and don't really know what Houston's natural spaces might look like.
Is it difficult to keep these plants and these trees alive during the changes in weather?
So that's one of the reasons that we really are focusing on native plants is that they do much better in these more extreme weather conditions. So they're better able to deal with drought conditions as well as hurricanes and even some of the colder weather too. So we ended up actually redoing a lot of the northern part of our site as a prairie and savanna area, largely because we saw how that space responded to previous hurricanes and found a lot of the area around Houston would have historically been prairie spaces. And that does really well when we have these flood events. Those grasses are really able to absorb a lot of that water and withstand it.
Is it difficult to take care of all the different fungi that can appear in some of these gardens?
So we do have a lot of fungi that comes up largely around our trail systems. So we only have a few truly garden areas, and those are more to showcase what people might be able to do in their own homes and gardens to incorporate native plants into their spaces. But a lot of the rest of the site is more lightly managed. It's still decently heavily managed. We do a lot to try and make sure the ecosystem is as healthy as possible, but it's not nearly the same amount of effort that we put into our garden areas. And that's also on purpose. A lot of these ecosystems, while they need some help, they do really well with a little bit of a lighter hand. So we don't have a ton of, I guess, issues with fungus. We actually like fungus a lot. And there's some really cool different mushrooms and things that grow out there. And we like to
Oh,
share
great.
information about that whenever we see them seasonally. But obviously, it's usually when it's much wetter than it is right now. So you won't see much out there right now if you're someone who's excited about seeing the different types of mushrooms that we might have out there.
Yeah, and I'm sure that you take all the effort that you can to maintain all these plants and trees as healthy as possible because there's a lot of wildlife too.
There are, and that's really one of the things that gets a lot of people there in the first place is seeing the different types of wildlife that hang out there. And Houston is a really great space to see wildlife. A lot of people might not think of it, but we're a really biodiverse city. Especially we're in a migratory bird path. So we see a lot of birds, especially in the fall and spring when they're migrating. And we've actually seen well over 200 at the Arboretum, 200 different species, which is really cool. But we also have things like tree frogs that people wouldn't think of because we are a subtropical area. We have bullfrogs, we have coyotes that come through occasionally. We used to have an alligator, we don't anymore. But there's a lot of different types of wildlife, and all of it is naturally occurring. It's not stuff that we've brought in, and we definitely discourage people from trying to bring animals in. So if you have a pet turtle, don't release it. It's probably not going to do very well. Same with any other wildlife. The Arboretum is not a good place for them, but it is a great place for the native wildlife that comes in on its own.
Yeah, I'm sure that for bird watchers, it's a paradise.
It's very fun. And I'm a bird watcher, so I'm a little bit biased, but it's a really great place to do that. And if it's something that you haven't done before, but you're interested in bird watching, it's also a really good place to learn. I mentioned that we are an educational facility and we do offer both classes in bird watching and free events where you can come and learn how to bird watch monthly. So there's a lot of really cool ways to get involved, which is nice too.
What about butterflies? I mean, we know that the monarch butterflies, they travel to get to the sanctuary that's in Mexico. So do they come through the Arboretum?
They absolutely do. And we get a lot of butterflies, both monarchs and other native butterflies in the area. We have, especially in our garden areas, we have a lot of flowering plants that do really well for our butterflies. And so it's pretty common for you to be able to see butterflies at the Arboretum. We also do actually have a new butterfly bungalow that we're working on. It is not necessarily open to the public, but it is a space that we're going to be using for our educational programs to teach people a little bit more about the different types of plants that butterflies need, host plants for their caterpillars, as well as nectar plants for the adult butterflies themselves. So we're trying to do things also to encourage people to learn more about the native plants and wildlife and see how they can help them at home or just day to day.
So we'll be able to see cocoons.
Most likely, yes. Actually, the last time I looked out there, I saw a cocoon on the outside. So there's definitely fun things to see. And there just is so much cool wildlife out there. You always see something different every time you go. And I love to watch new visitors or go out on a walk with coworkers. And the more you look, the more you see in a lot of the places. So it's very fun.
And I'm sure we can check your calendar of events on your website.
Yes, absolutely. This is actually a great time to check our calendar because we have a whole bunch of really fun fall programs that are coming up, and we just opened registration for a lot of them. So whether you're looking for kids classes, something to do with the family, we have some free open house events coming up, as well as a lot of fun adult programs. So even if you're not a huge nature nerd, but you want to get outside, we've got some fun ways for you to do that too.
Yeah. And also to find out when to see these migratory butterflies or even certain type of birds during the year.
Yeah. So the best thing for that is if you follow us on social media. We're on especially Facebook and Instagram. Those are two great places to follow us because we share weekly bird sightings as well as throughout the year we'll share information about the different plants and animals and things that are happening. So that's a really good way to stay up to date a little bit more than even our website.
Yeah. You just mentioned programs for children, and that's one of the main things that y'all love to do because kids can learn so quickly about their environment, the ecology, and just about everything there is about nature. So can you tell us a little bit about some of those programs and especially some of the programs that are coming up this fall?
Absolutely. So our children's programs are extremely popular. People love them. We have for younger kids, so 18 months to 4 years old, we have Tike Hikes, which are on most Mondays, and they are a really fun Monday morning opportunity for kids to come out with their parents and explore the trails, different themes each week. And those are actually free for Arboretum members. So we do have a membership program, and there are some fun perks to being a member, like free parking and discounts or sometimes free programs. And so Tike Hikes is one of those. For a little bit older kids, we have an amazing homeschool program, and that this year serves ages 5 to 17. And it's actually increased a little bit because we have a new homeschool offering all about nature journaling, which I'm really excited to see how that goes because we've hosted some nature journaling classes for adults, but I think that it's going to be something that the younger ages really enjoy. And so that one I think is going to be extremely popular. We also have some.
That sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun.
It does. And I love to nature journal. It's just such a fun creative outlet. And it's so fun to be able to introduce that to all different ages. So I think that's going to be extremely fun.
Yeah. And you also offer many diverse adult classes throughout the year as well. I mean, really, adults can learn as much as kids.
We do. Yeah. So we have all those kids programs, which also include camps, summer, winter, and spring break camp. But then the adult programs are really fun because they are so diverse. We have things coming up where you can learn about gardening for butterflies. If you're interested in those butterflies, we have ways for you to learn about that. But also if you are maybe not as comfortable in nature, but want to get outside, we have a lot of special event programs like our sip and strolls. And we actually have one coming up on September 21st. And that's a fun just evening, get out with your friends, get out with your significant other, or by yourself, and you walk along the trails, enjoy some charcuterie and enjoy some adult beverages. And it's really fun. It's nice. It's in the evenings, and those are always a great time.
That sounds very relaxing.
It is. I love those programs. They're just so nice and chill, and it's a great way to do something fun in Houston that doesn't feel like you're in Houston, which is really cool.
Right. And I know that sometimes you have photography classes.
We do occasionally. I don't believe that we have any coming up right now, but that is one of the great things to look for is we have classes on food and beverages. We have classes on art and photography. We have classes on gardening, on some of the various nature topics. So there are just so many ways to get involved and to learn about things at the Arboretum. And it might not always be the things that you think that you would learn at the Arboretum. Like we have a wild tea class coming up where you can learn how to use herbs and other plants to make your own tea at home. And so we have so many great educators that work at the Arboretum, and they do a really amazing job of coming up with some really phenomenal programs.
Yeah. And you have amazing speakers also that come in and talk about different topics as well.
We do. We do. We actually have, there are some really great people and great people with a lot of really cool backgrounds. We have an event coming up on frogs and then another one on bats. And both of those, we bring in experts to talk about those things. And they're just very neat programs.
And we certainly have a lot of bats here in Houston.
We do.
We
definitely do. And we're actually sort of doing a two-part or two different events back to back in September. Last year we did our first one, but this year we're doing our second annual Bat Fest. And it's actually open to the public, families, anyone who wants to come from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. on September 23rd. And that's a Saturday. And so it's a fun opportunity to learn about bats and just get outside. But the night before, we're doing that event that I was mentioning with an expert coming in to talk about it. And that's on that Friday, the 22nd. It's called Going Baddie. So there's a couple of different things. And Going Baddie it's talking about bats pollinate the tequila plant or the plant that tequila comes from. And so we're going to be talking about some of that stuff too. So lots of just different fun ways to learn about nature and different ways to access it, which is really fun.
And then we can definitely go see bats, all the bats that come out from under the bridge down on Ellen Parkway,
Absolutely.
right?
And the other fun thing is we also have those bats, but other types of bats too. So we have a number of species of bats that live in Houston, and not all of them live in those big colonies. So one of the fun things that we do at this Going Baddie event is we actually go out with recording devices basically, or they pick up the different noises that the bats make, and they can tell you a little bit more about what types of bats you're hearing. So that's a really fun thing that we can do too.
And that's within the park?
Yes. So
oh, wow. How cool.
Every night you can see bats out above honestly, just look up usually in the evenings and you can see bats, and they might be the ones from WA, but they might be ones from other colonies or other places around Houston, which is really fun.
Yeah. And I understand that the center recently completed a master plan, so it's going to be redeveloped?
Yeah. So we had been under construction basically from 2017 to 2021. And it was a really exciting time because our building previously, part of it was the original building from the 60s, and then another addition had been added in the 90s. But we hadn't done a lot to it since then. So we were actually able to renovate that, add some additional spaces in new buildings, and make that nature center have expanded area for educational offerings. So we redid our nature shop that's there, as well as our discovery room, and have all new exhibits in there. So if you haven't been in a long time, I know there are people in Houston who grew up going to the Arboretum but haven't been in years, it might look a little bit different. And there's definitely new fun things to see.
Oh, I haven't been in a while, so definitely I have to go and see
You
it.
will.
So what else is included?
So at the nature center itself, the main things to see there are our nature shop, where we have fun things. If you're looking for an interesting gift or a cool puzzle, that's a good place to go. And then our discovery room, which is really interesting because we've updated it to really showcase the different environments that we have on site. So we have different exhibits that talk about our prairies and our savannas, as well as our wetland ecosystems and our forests. And so there's different fun interactive things in there. And we do have some ambassador animals that live in there that kids and adults can see and learn more about. And then a lot of the rest of that space is our classroom areas. And so those obviously wouldn't be things that would be interesting to people unless they were going to classes, but we're really excited about them. And then in addition to that, in that whole area, we have a brand new nature playscape. And that's been really fun because nature play is just so important. And I really love how the playscape came together because it incorporates a lot of different activities, as well as some sort of free play areas like sand areas, or we actually brought in some large logs from the site that kids can climb on and explore. So it really encourages a lot of activity and imagination. And that's a really great place for folks to bring kids as well.
Yeah, I think it would be a great idea to stop by the Arboretum and the Nature Center before going out to Memorial Park. That way you'll learn all about the plants and the trees. And then once you hit Memorial Park, you'll know what you're seeing.
That's true. They're both really great spaces, and Memorial Park is obviously doing a lot of great things with their ecosystems as well, and highlighting native species too. And when folks try and figure out the difference between our two organizations, one of the biggest ones is that we are so focused on the educational aspect, but we're also not a recreation space in the way that Memorial Park is. So if you want to go running, if you want to go biking, by all means, head over to Memorial Park. But we actually don't allow biking and running on the Arboretum's trails, largely because we're trying to get folks to slow down a little bit, enjoy nature. And because we do have so many classes for families and kids and really want to encourage that, we want to make sure that they have a great experience and aren't having to dodge people on bikes or whatever. But I will say, if you are a dog owner or dog walker, we love having dogs on leash at the Arboretum. So we have lots of avid dog walkers there, and that is definitely allowed.
What about cats on leashes?
Oh, yes, actually. So we usually say any pet on a leash is allowed. We've had people walk their cats there before, and it's really fun to see. But yeah, ultimately the biggest thing is making sure that your animal, whatever kind it is, controlled and that you pick up after it. And that's the biggest thing, both for the animal safety and the safety of our wildlife. So it goes both ways.
Is it handicap accessible?
A number of our areas are. So obviously our entire trail system is not, but we do have some trails that are accessible, and we are also working on improving that. But our nature center itself is accessible, and it can be accessed from either of the two parking areas. So that's definitely something that we wanted to encourage and make sure that everyone has access to nature.
Yeah, great opportunity to go to the programs, right?
Exactly, yes.
The center also has many conservation activities, and that's what I think has helped preserve the park so beautifully. So can you tell us what some of those conservation activities are?
Absolutely. So especially as part of our master plan, we really wanted to work with the ecosystem, see what was going on with it. For people who have been in Houston for a while, they might remember the drought and then Hurricane Ike. And those were many years ago now, but that was actually the thing that started our master plan. That got us thinking, because between us and Memorial Park, we lost about half of our mature tree canopy, and it was really devastating. And we looked at the ecosystems and specifically the topography and the soil, and we figured out that a lot of the areas where the trees were lost were soil areas that were historically more grassland ecosystems. So the trees weren't established as well because it really wasn't where they were supposed to be, but because us humans had removed a lot of the natural checks and balances of the ecosystem, it got more forested. That's the natural progression of things, is moving towards treed or shrubbed areas. And so what we've really been doing over the last few years is working with those ecosystems to bring back some of the historic land management that would have happened, which would have been large grazers. And while we can't have buffalo out there, we can have goats. And so we've brought goats in for the last few years to mow down some of those areas. And that's great because it's lighter on the land than a tractor, which is what we usually use. And they can access places that a tractor can't as easily, like slopes or muddy areas, which is really wonderful. And in conjunction with that, we're also brought back prescribed fires. And I know fire is a tough thing because people see so much about wildfires on the news and it's really scary. But what a lot of people don't know, although they're learning, is that wildfire, or rather just fires in general, were a natural, normal part of ecosystems. And they would come through this area between every 3 to 5 years, or sometimes 1 to 5, depending on where you were or who you ask. And so what we're doing is we've been working with Houston Fire Department and Texas Parks and Wildlife and several other organizations to kind of get ahead of some of that. And so we've been doing burns for the last few years, and they've been really successful, really great educational opportunities as well. But the biggest reason that we're doing it is both to encourage the health of the ecosystem, keep invasive plants and woody species at bay in our prairie areas, but also it returns nutrients to the soil and it reduces the risk of really those large, scary wildfires when conditions are dry like they are now. So it's something that we're doing also to protect the rest of the Arboretum as well as our neighbors. So it's been really exciting to see those things happening, because it means that we're in the news way more for the exciting conservation work we're doing and not just the amazing educational opportunities we have. So we really are showcasing both parts of our mission, which is very exciting.
It's amazing how the ecosystem works.
It is. It's very fun.
Yeah. And I also love the idea of y'all bringing in the goats. I think that is great.
They're extremely popular, and it's always very fun to see visitors who aren't around livestock a lot because I mean this it is a business. We work with a group called Rent a Ruminant, and they go around the state of Texas with their goats, helping people manage their landscapes. But it's so exciting to see visitors of every age get excited about the goats and then be able to explain why we're doing it. And it's a perfect educational opportunity to share what grazers can do for our ecosystem and what our ecosystems even look like. Because if you're new to Houston, you see a lot of the concrete a lot of the times, or you see
Yes.
really large areas with lots of big trees. And that wasn't what Houston looked like back in the day. So it's fun to be able to
Right.
showcase some of the native ecosystems that we have here too.
Yeah. I'm sure the goats were fun to watch, but also I think the goats helped fertilize the ground as well.
Yes, we have a lot of people ask about that, and we don't remove any of their natural fertilizer. We let that stay there. So they do add a little bit back.
Yeah, and one of the things that we didn't talk about was bugs. There are a lot of bugs
There are.
that we don't see, They're there, but we don't see them.
Yes, there are a lot of bugs. And I honestly love looking at all of the different insects and spiders and things that we have. A few years ago, got really interested in praying mantises, and we have those there. So there's really neat stuff out there, especially if you take some time to look and just explore.
Yeah, if you love nature, you can go and learn a lot at the Arboretum Nature Center, a lot. So, Christine, the Arboretum has, as you mentioned, a lot of great programs coming up. And again, we just have to go visit your website to look at your calendar and find out what all you have coming up and when. And what is your website?
Our website is houstonarboretum.org.
Easy.
We try and make it easy.
HoustonArboretum.org. So you mentioned that members get a lot of perks.
Yes.
So how do we become members?
So you can become a member by going on our website, and at the very top, there's a become a member section, and you just click on that and you can get a membership for yourself, your spouse and yourself, or your whole family. And it's a really great way not only to support our nonprofit, but also to get some really wonderful benefits for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Can we volunteer?
Yes, absolutely. So we do offer volunteer opportunities as well, and that's available on our website. We offer volunteering for both our conservation and our education activities, and you can do that on an individual basis, but we also have group volunteer activities as well. So if you're with an organization that's looking to volunteer, that's an opportunity. And actually, one of the programs I haven't mentioned yet is our big fall festival, Arboretum. It's coming up on October 14th, and you can sign up to be a volunteer for that as part of a group, or you can just come and enjoy that. And that's free for members as well. So it's a really fun activity.
That is so much fun, especially for the kids.
Yes, they love it. So you can either volunteer and go to it, or you can go with your family.
Yeah. What about donors? Do you accept donations?
We absolutely do. So we rely heavily on donations, and we have a lot of really wonderful donors who have supported our work for years. And you can go online at any time and donate to us. And if you have a corporation that's interested in donating, we also work with corporations and have sponsorship opportunities. So there really are so many different ways to get involved and to support the Arboretum, and we appreciate all of them.
Yeah. Personally, what do you think is the most important thing to know or remember about the Arboretum and Nature Center?
Oh, that's a hard one. I would say just the most important thing to know is that it's there and that you should come and visit it and bring a friend, and that you will see something different every time you go, especially if you take the time to slow down and look.
And of course that it's beautiful.
It is. It's
and relaxing.
gorgeous. Yes. It's so wonderful to see. And yeah, it is. It's a great place to go relax for sure.
Yeah. Well, Christine, can you mention your website and maybe a phone number as well again?
So our website is houstonarboretum.org, and our phone number is 713-681-8433. But the best ways to reach us are definitely going to our website. We have contact forms there, as well as reaching out to us or looking at our information on social media. So those are some of our great ways to access and find out more about us.
Yeah, there's tons of information at your website, the HoustonArboretum.org.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Christine, for joining us on Spotlight Houston. It's great to have
Absolutely.
you.
Thank you for having me. This has been so much fun.
Yeah, it has been fun. And of course, as always, I'd like to thank you as well for being with me on this edition of Spotlight Houston. And if you have any comments, please send them my way. And also, if you have any program ideas, please let me know.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Spotlight Houston, a production of Story Zone Media.